How's it going, wrestling fans? Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Wrestle Report, episode 44 with Phil and Don. I am Phil.
I'm Don.
I say this all the time, but it's been a while since we last spoke. I think it was post Wrestlemania. Since then, Donovan's had a Vegas trip and he made it back in one piece. He, flew himself back here. Boy, are his arms tired. And we missed a good amount of wrestling since that last one, but now we're back and ready to talk about some stuff. And we actually, something we'll probably throw in here eventually, in the next 30 days or so, we might actually be at a WWE event for the first time in a long time. Not even an NXT event, like a true WWE house show, because they're coming to Daytona. Actually, as we're recording this, it'll be like a month and a day from today when they'll be at the Ocean Center. We're going to hope to make that happen. I'm not worried about them selling out necessarily, but hopefully we can get the crew together and go out to that. That'll be a good time.
Yeah, for sure.
I do want to start at the past couple waves of NXT releases we haven't really talked about. One, because it's depressing and it's confusing and it never really makes sense as to why these really talented people, and in some cases have only been there for 3 to 6 months of their 2 to 3 year deal that they signed. So, I didn't like to talk about it too much after the first several waves. We just kind of got numb to it. But this most recent one, I think it just merits. There's so many different versions of why it's confusing. For me personally, in my selfish fandom ways, the release of Harland, who's a guy who had so much buzz coming in. He was a social media craze, being baby Brock Lesnar, Parker Boudreaux from the UCF Knights. For them to turn him into the Harland character that they did, and I didn't hate it right away. And the whole thing with Gacy and he's being his muscle, like I saw a stitch of potential in it, but to give up, basically the way I looked at it, I don't know about you, and you've attended NXT more than me, you've watched NXT more than me, but the second they made Gacy like go for the title, they basically dropped Harland from his whole character, is the way I gathered it.
Yeah, and then it looks like they got two other new people with them instead of, because like last Tuesday they had two other people instead of Harland there. So it's confusing.
Yeah,
it definitely is confusing.
Because he was, he's had a few matches. From what I can understand, the people's reaction to him has been what you would want. Like, he's literally only doing squash matches. You're getting the response you'd want from a dark match, or not dark match, a squash match, from the way he works and everything, the way they're making him work. Because the dude's clearly an athlete. He's All-American center at UCF. Prior to that, he played at Notre Dame. They don't let just anybody in there. Clearly an intelligent guy, too, to play at Notre Dame. Yeah. And to give him this mindless, like, I don't want to call him a zombie. I don't even know what words you would truly use to describe the Harland character, but like, he should have been brought in. I'm not saying the push that Braun Breaker got, but a similar presentation to Braun Breaker, like this dude who's an athlete who has, some form of an NFL almost pedigree. They say they love the football players. You bring in one, and then this is what you do with them. So I'm not saying he should be where Braun Breaker is or anything, but like somewhere between him and like the Grayson Waller spotlight, I think just like showcase this guy as an athlete. And the part that really annoyed me, and I heard this story later and it only irritated me more. UCF baseball, their coach Lovelady, is a huge wrestling fan. So much so that when they had a game rained out, they had a doubleheader on night one of WrestleMania. And he spent half of his press conference talking about how annoyed he was that he was missing WrestleMania, and then he asked the conference if he could have his laptop in the dugout with WrestleMania on, and they told him no. So that's how big of a fan our baseball coach is of wrestling. And every year they have a pro wrestling day, and they have all the guys come out to their walk-ups or wrestling themed, and they try to make some fun about it. And Parker Boudreaux, Harlan, was supposed to throw out the first pitch on that day, and that's the day he got released. And even though he was at the game, he hung out in the box or whatever with other people. He just obviously wasn't feeling up to throwing out the first pitch, given that. But to ruin that homecoming for him, and granted that not that they probably knew that was happening, but like the way it lined up, really just like the extra kick in the pants to do to this guy that has all the potential in the world, and from what I can see on social media, still plans to make a career of wrestling. He's growing his hair back out. He's growing his beard back out. He's getting back in the gym, because I call it Stardust syndrome, when they put you in something that covers your entire body, you probably lax at the gym a little bit. You're not as worried about being defined. He's trying to get all that back. But again, that's me from someone who's been a fan of this guy coming into wrestling. But how did you feel as someone who only saw the Harlan character on TV? Like, do you feel like they could have done more with him? Clearly, I don't think anybody looked at that guy and said, oh, no, he needs to be released. Like, he doesn't have it. I don't think anybody, except for the NXT people in the back, thought that.
I felt like he was definitely growing on me. He was a big guy, and that's what Vince likes. So it was kind of strange to hear that he was getting released. I wanted to see more of him. Hell, I would love to see him turn on Joe Gacy at one point, and then become a babyface, because I think he could be a big time babyface. He's a popular guy. When if you look at it like his Instagram and stuff, I've been seeing 2 Chainz, I'll be seeing Westside over there on him on his stuff, and that's the main reason why he comes to the events, the NXT events, to see him. I guess they're really, really close friends.
And yeah, I saw one like after his release, they were trying to like cheer him up, and they brought him out to like a Drake concert or something. I remember seeing about that too. But yeah, social media presence, in which it was always funny given his character. He just doesn't appear a guy that should be social media savvy, but he was, and he interacted with people, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it may be. And I agree. I think a face turn, at least before you release the guy, give it the chance. And it's pretty simple to pull him out of that character. It's like, you told me if I listen to everything you said, I shaved my head, I shaved my beard, I wore this stupid, onesie, what like a trash man would wear, basically. I don't know what you call it. I did all the stuff you said to be successful, and all it did was get you an NXT championship match. Like, what did that do for me? Like, it would have been that. I thought of that in 2 seconds. I didn't have that prepared it when we came on to record. Like, it's that simple. You could easily, especially when Gacy's a cult leader, it's very easy for someone just be like, no, I did everything you said, and look where it got me. So just a lazy.
Also, he was well liked whenever I used to go to the events. When he was to come out, he was always cheered. And
I think the first time that when I went with you, he hadn't wrestled yet, but he like did his first bit of like physical. He like slammed somebody, like his first bit of physicality in the ring, and even that got a reaction at the time, I remember. Yeah. So yeah, definitely. That's the thing. Like when somebody's just when it's just not working out, right? Like, I get those releases, but the end, like, I'm sure he didn't have the cheapest deal on the roster, but he definitely didn't have the most expensive. He was a huge upside type of, and there are other releases we want to talk about. This one, just to me, it really shows you how you can do everything kind of right and still get the release at this point. And like you mentioned, like, he's a big dude. That's what Vince wants. Vince also got rid of Braun Strowman. Like, I don't know what Vince wants anymore. He loves Austin Theory. We know that. And he's extremely talented, but he's not what you'd consider a big guy. So, it really does bring me down to the whole, like, Dexter Lumis is another. And other than his kind of odd tattoos, which I could see Vince souring on, the way that every one of his tattoos are blacked out or whatever, but like, that's a fairly big dude as well. Like, they could have done something with him. I've seen him, outside of his weird storylines in NXT, he did a lot of good things in Impact with a similar gimmick of kind of the, like, I don't love the like kidnapper thing, because I don't know how that's going to play on, like, I mean, they're on USA now, but like, I don't know how that played with like network people seeing this character on screen, like abducting other people, sometimes women. Like, that probably isn't great for a show, a network that airs Law and Order Special Victims Unit and stuff. It's probably not a good side of that, but that's another guy. But really the biggest one for me isn't even a wrestler. It's Malcolm Bivens, because that guy is money. And, the Diamond Mine, other than Roderick Strong, has a lot of green people in it. Some people with huge upsides like Ivy Nile, who I expect to see great things from. Is that whole group just done now? Because Roddy can talk a little bit, but like the Diamond Mine, that he's the reason that was a thing. I don't know what they do with it. And he apparently chose not to resign. So I'm not sure what that. So it was a release in the sense that we know you're not resigning, so we're just going to get rid of you now. A little bit different than some of the other people on this list, but definitely weird, because I don't know, you could have done a million things with that guy. I don't know if sticking him with a bunch of, green people and Roderick Strong was a choice. I think him and Ivy Nile alone like just that similar to what they're doing with Jade Cargill on AEW with Smart Mark Sterling. Like a very similar production like that would have been awesome, I think. And I do think we're gonna see him pop up in somewhere when that 90-30 whatever days is up, because he's probably got a lot to say, and I look forward to the Talk is Jericho podcast where he gives his story, because that one really came out of nowhere for me.
Well, I guess he did a stand-up comedy show because he's a comedian as well. And he actually talked about his release. It sucks because I love Malcolm Bivens.
Yeah.
And it looks like what they're doing now with Diamond Mine is they might be breaking them all up, because the tag team in there.
The whoever brothers, the
Creed brothers.
Mm-hmm.
They're beefing with Roderick Strong right now, because they had a match with the Viking Raiders, and Roddy basically got involved and they didn't like that shit. So it seems like Roddy's becoming a heel and the Creed brothers are becoming faces. And Ivy Nile, like, she had like a package, basically doing a training video with some people, with some men, and she basically outlasted the men in there. I think she's money.
Like, absolutely.
She has the look. She looks intimidating. She looks like she could actually fight. And I felt like Malcolm Bivens was definitely a good mouthpiece for her.
Them alone, like I said, that could have been the act moving forward, and I would have been fine with it.
And it looks like they're gonna pair probably Roddy with Gable Stevenson's brother.
Oh, okay,
Kemp.
that's interesting.
Damian Kemp. Yeah, he's part of the Diamond Mine now.
Mm-hmm. And then Dakota Kai was another big name on there, and that's another, like, Charlotte is not getting any younger. Bailey hasn't been on TV in a match capacity in like 2 years. Becky's now a mother. Like, the women's revolution was great, but like, it does have a shelf life that I don't know how much longer these people get to. Rhonda's not gonna be around forever. I'm surprised Rhonda's around right now. You get these talented women, and you're not ready for the next generation yet, clearly.
Yep.
And you got Bianca, which is great start, but the old saying, like, you could wrestle a broom. Well, she can't wrestle herself. She does need someone else of her caliber if Bianca's the future. And I think she is. I think she's fantastic. But someone like Dakota Kai is someone that you would have expected to see. You mentioned like the Vince guy thing. There isn't really that for the women. Different ones make. I mean, look at the Becky, Bailey, Charlotte. Like, they're all completely different in looks and style and everything. So like, there's not really like that's a Vince McMahon signing female version yet. But when you have someone that talented, it's just crazy that she's gone as well. And like I said, I don't normally like talking about the releases, but these ones, the first two, Harlan and Bevins, it's just like, if you told me write down the top 10 people you watch NXT for, like, they're probably in the top 3. I think your t-shirt might be the main one right now, but Carmelo Hayes for those listening to the audio version. But yeah, seeing what Harlan would eventually break out to do, and Malcolm Bivens for Ivy Nile, and then Roderick Strong's always a treat to watch. Like, that's probably my top 3 or 4 right there. So, really reshuffles it. Just confusing as always. There's not much left to say anymore. I'm sure a lot of these guys, the one positive to this now, the way wrestling is, almost every one of these guys and girls land on their feet, and they maybe don't make the same amount of money, but they make enough to be happy and healthy and safe, and they still continue wrestling. So that, that part is great. I listened recently to the, I forget what she goes by now, but the Ember Moon interview with Chris Van Vliet, and she just seems like in a very happy place. Some of the stuff she did talk about was how they had meetings about how to dress more like scandalous. Like, you don't like to hear that. Like, that's not what these people are there for. Like, they're all obviously, attractive women or whatever, but you don't need to, that's not why you're there. You're there to be in an athletic contest. So I don't understand, but great interview. If you haven't seen it, everything Chris Van Vliet does knocks it out of the park anyway, but it was good to hear from her. I always put her as, and I always said this, like, I don't know if like your mom or grandma or someone ever did this, but like, they play the same lotto numbers every week, hoping that it hits one of these days. Ember Moon was always my like dark horse to win the Royal Rumble, thinking one day it would just like hit and they'd be off to the races with her. But that's someone from the last batch or whatever. But Before we move on, any other talk on this batch of releases? And it sounds like this is just going to be like a quarterly thing, and we just have to get used to it. It's not, won't even be a surprise anymore, is what it's sounding like.
Well, apparently, what I've heard was that a lot of the people that got released, they felt like they weren't getting better in at what they was doing, or there was a contract was about to be done, and they were, I guess they would rather just get rid of them or before the contract is done. Yeah, and they wasn't planning on resigning, so
right.
So that's the wild thing. It sucks about Malcolm Bivens because I love Malcolm Bivens, and it was always a treat watching him live out there, because he would interact with all the people in the stands and the fans, especially when they're out there already in this commercial break. He's usually on the mic having a
keeping the energy up.
Yeah. Like the things that you don't see him doing was always great. I saw him sign Creed, the Diamond Mine towels and stuff. That was pretty
that
cool,
was the John Cena one where it's like never give up, and he's like, just kidding, give up, or whatever it said. Like that was money. That was so funny.
That was perfect, yo.
Yeah. So yeah, again, it's just in some cases like he told him, hey, I'm not resigning, and they're all right, then let's just get you out of here now type thing. Those I understand a little bit more, I guess. It's like AEW, what people are saying, what's worse, just getting released or when your contract's up, them just kind of not re-signing you. But I think if you know that that's happening, it's really the same thing, because you're either going to ride out your contract and sit at home and get paid, or they're going to release you and you have your 90-day and you sit home and get paid. So it's not that big of a difference. It's just the way you're going about it. And I mean, some of these guys, they get, and girls get paid for 90 days afterwards, but their contract might have been for 2 more years. So it's not quite a 1-to-1, but at least you have time to get things together in that sense. And there are some people, and Cole Cabana kind of made this famous, if you bug them enough, you can just be like, if you stop paying me next week, we could just clean break. Like, you leave a little bit of the money on the table if you have something really, really important to jump out to or do next or whatnot. There's a way to do that, whatever. We're going to take a quick break here, and then we're going to jump into WrestleMania Backlash and everything that took place there. So stick around. Okay, so WrestleMania Backlash was last week, I want to say. We're about a week old from what's going down, right? If you missed WrestleMania, never fear, because you basically got the Spark Notes version of it here at Backlash. I think every match was a match from Mania, with the exception of Madcap Moss and Happy Corbin. And then, of course, the main event, the Bloodline against Drew McIntyre and RK Bro. Let's actually start there, because that was kind of a winding road to get us to that match. We were told we were getting a tag title unification match. Drew McIntyre kind of got involved. It turned into 6-man, which, while good and while entertaining, it really brings up another one of those, did they kind of mislead you? You told him before we started recording that they're actually going to have that match now on SmackDown this week, the tag title unification. So that fixes a little bit of that mess, but like, they got to be careful how often they mislead people like this, because and granted, it wasn't like they changed it the day of, but like, they almost got to the point where they just weren't talking about it at all. And I think the uproar of like, are we getting this or not, is the main reason we are actually going to unify. And then I guess my question to lead into this, it sounds like they didn't really have a plan to do it at first. So that makes me wonder, are we going to get a unification, a true one? Like, I remember last year or 2 years ago now at this point, they did a tease unification with, I think it was Seth Rollins and Kofi Kingston when they were champions, and it just ended in DQ and you never heard about it again. So what is your like confidence percentage that we're actually going to unify the titles on Friday?
I'm giving it about a 60% chance that they're actually going to do it.
Okay.
I know that might be high, but I feel like what they're going to probably do is, I think the plan is to actually unify it. But I would say the only way that they don't do it is if Roman Reigns interferes.
Yeah.
I think that is the only, because it's going to be a DQ finish, and then I can see them trying to stretch it out until on the Cell.
Yeah, Hell in the Cell, and then Money in the Bank.
Yeah, I can see them. I can see them holding out until Hell in a Cell, and then putting it like in the cell type of thing.
Yeah, that wouldn't be bad.
Yeah, that wouldn't be bad. I think there's only been like one other tag team Hell in a Cell match. The Usos and New Day.
Yeah.
So like, hey, I think it would be a hell of a match if you could do that. But
Yeah.
it's just gonna be hard to stretch it that long. Because
I do think if you are going to do it, the Usos are going to win, because I just saw a post, I think it was yesterday. They just hit the 300-day mark as tag champs, which is going to be really, they're coming for the record, I think. I mean, if they stretch it to Hell in the Cell, that'll put them, if they somehow push the Money in the Bank, that would basically be a year-long reign before they unified. Yeah. But no, I think if they do it at Hell in the Cell or something, that would actually be very good. But supposedly we're going to get it on Friday, so we'll see how that goes. We had another Cody Seth Rollins match that opened the show. Another classic 20 minutes. It's about what you expect. I don't know what's left for I'm worried that they're gonna face each other at Hell in the Cell, and Rollins is gonna win the cell, and then all this was kind of for nothing. I'll tell you what I was terrified of, because I made the joke when he debuted. I know you didn't come for Mania this year, right? Do I have that right?
No, yeah.
So I'm sitting there with Billy, and he debuts. I'm like, you know what they're gonna do, right? They're just gonna give him the U.S. title, and then he's gonna defend it at the pre-show of SummerSlam. So when Raw, I heard the thing like Cody's challenging for the U.S. title. I'm like, oh my God, I was kidding, but they're really gonna do this. So while that was a great match, everyone was annoyed by the DQ. I'm glad they didn't just stick Cody in the U.S. title thing. But again, great match. And if they have a Hell in the Cell, I'm sure Cody coming back, like one of his things is like, yeah, I'd like to be in a Hell in the Cell. I like that moment for my career. And I mean, Seth is still really good. So do you want him losing 3 times to Cody? Like maybe this is it for a while. Maybe they finally transition Cody to something else. But I'm a little concerned they're just going to regurgitate this so many times to the point that we're not going to see it. We don't want to see it anymore.
I think they are going to do it at Hell in a Cell just because Seth Rollins basically costed him the match against Austin or Theory at Monday Night Raw. And I could see them doing it in the Hell in a Cell. And I feel like they actually gave Cody and they made sense of the reason of having the third match. Because you cost me the championship. Now I want to whoop your ass even more now.
Also, it's the first match, Seth Rollins has already said it. Like, I didn't know you were facing me. Like, I had no time to prepare for you. And then the Backlash match, while it was Rollins that was going for the tights first, Cody ended up winning by pulling the tights. Yeah. So he can give him that as well. And then you could say we're in Hell in the Cell. We both know what's coming. Like, full force everything. This is the real rubber match kind of thing.
Yeah, I could see.
So there's ways to do it. I would just hate for you to make a Seth Rollins Cody Rhodes match not feel special. But I think the Cell would make it feel. If the only 2 Hell in the Cell matches we get this year are this and the title unification, that's probably a good thing.
Oh yeah,
good with that. What's your opinion on not so much just the match, but where we are with it with Judgment Day, Edge's purple themed stable? What's your opinion on it so far?
I absolutely love it. I love the addition of Rhea Ripley. Definitely fits that mold.
Agreed.
If we could get a trios match, Damian Priest, Edge and Rhea versus Finn, AJ, and Liv. Apparently, that's what they've been doing on the house.
I could see that happening. Yeah,
I've been seeing them doing it on the house shows lately. So it could possibly be next during that Hell in a Cell.
Do you think
I can see them doing a third Hell in a Cell just for that too?
Potentially, yeah. I don't know that they've ever done more than 2. I'm not against it, but I don't know that they've done. Usually, it's 1 kind of per show or whatever. So, do you think? You said you absolutely love it. It's it's a little darker than it needs to be because we already know who Edge is as a person, I guess. But if this is just where his mindset is, it's like it's easily forgivable. Like, they could pull back a little bit on the spooky, and I probably would have been okay with it. But otherwise, I enjoy it. I would like to think that one of the writers went up to him and was like, "What do you think of Judgment Day for the name of the stable?" And he was like, "Well, that's fine, but that used to be a pay-per-view name, right?" And I'm sure the writer had no idea because he would not have been there 20 years ago when they were using Judgment Name as a pay-per-view name. But overall, no, I do enjoy it. It's definitely Priest and Edge perfectly works together, and then Rhea Ripley, they weren't going to do much with her in the near future anyway. So definitely a great thing for her to be doing. And they look so menacing standing together, the three of them, right? Like, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, bro.
What do you make of the rumor, and would you be for Ciampa joining them? Because I've been hearing stuff about that as well
too.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind it if you could basically have him do like him and Priest or tag team,
yeah.
and then Edge's the singles guy, and then
He would look a little, just cosmetically, he would look a little out of place.
Oh yeah,
Don't you think?
Sure. Yeah, 100%.
I'm not saying it couldn't work, but when they're all standing in the ring with the purple light on them, it would just look a little. And then there's Ciampa. It would be a little bit like that. But I'm not against it, I don't think. The Omos Bobby Lashley thing happens. That's about all I'm going to say about that.
I would say this: it was better than the WrestleMania match.
True, but Omos won, so now I feel bad for Bobby. At least Bobby won because at the end of the day, people don't remember the Backlash stuff; they're going to remember the Mania stuff. So at least Bobby got that. Rhonda beating Charlotte, I was a little surprised because it was an I Quit match, and it was pretty good. I got to give them credit; it was a pretty good match. Overall, good show, but it's funny to me again. These are almost all WrestleMania matches, and you went from a 2-night WrestleMania to a 1-night pay-per-view that ended before the 11. Yeah. So it's like, you kind of admitted how much fluff you put on that thing, and they've already, they're already doing two days next year and everything. So that's kind of, I think we're stuck with that situation, but overall, not a bad pay-per-view. Sets up some stuff moving forward. And we already talked about Hell in the Cell. We've kind of mentioned some of the ways they can go with that, but after that is going to be Money in the Bank. And as you've probably seen, and a lot of people listening have probably seen, they started airing a Money in the Bank kind of teaser commercial with Cody Rhodes front and center talking about the whole thing. And it's kind of led to some confusion because he mentions, winning Money in the Bank gives you an opportunity to be like, I forget the verbiage, but basically made it sound like Money in the Bank now wins you like the Royal Rumble does, like a main event at WrestleMania. And that could have just been an oversight in the way the commercial is done. And in theory, not Austin, but in theory, you could win the Money in the Bank and wait till Mania to cash in. So he's not lying when he says that. He's not inaccurate by saying that you could do that by winning this. But I assume it was, I assume it was an oversight, because then that really diminishes the Royal Rumble if you have two ways like that. I mean, because you already, and then you, in some years, you have the Elimination Chamber doing that for you as well.
Yeah.
So my guess is it's an oversight. It's a miswording, but how nobody caught that is a little, the way Vince is with everything, like how nobody caught that is a little, were you equally confused? I'm sure you've seen this, right?
Yeah. When I saw it, I was pretty confused. I didn't understand what Cody was. I was like, okay, so the Royal Rumble is not a thing any longer, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Which that would do it for me. If you kill the one thing that I love in your company, if you kill the Royal Rumble, I don't even want to talk about it. But yeah.
But I also I think I understood what he was saying.
It just wasn't clear.
It just wasn't clear for everyone else. Because they're basically saying like what Seth Rollins did.
Yeah. Again, you have the ability to do it that way, but they made it a little too A to B when, that would be 8 months from now, if I have that right. Mania, no, maybe longer, 9 months from July to April. 11. Okay, so almost a full year.
From July. If you're talking about from July, then
right. So almost a full, essentially a full wrestling calendar year. And then if that's the case, you wouldn't carry the briefcase around anymore. It would just kill the whole vibe. I've heard people saying they would like I think they do good with Money in the Bank as a standalone pay-per-view, but a lot of people want it back at WrestleMania on that card instead. But I think it does well it's definitely the big five. It's definitely the only other one that stands out amongst, it's almost overlaps Survivor Series, in my opinion, as far as importance of a pay-per-view for Money in the Bank, especially when you do the 2 year, which eventually, and this year would be the case. There won't be 2 ladder match. There'll probably be one for the women's championship and one for the men, but there won't be a Raw and a SmackDown anymore because one guy has both belts or whatever.
Yeah.
But speaking of the guy that has both belts, another thing that was a little confusing. Apparently a house show for WWE in Trenton, New Jersey, of all places. Because when I think big stars, I think Trenton, New Jersey. I don't know about you.
I don't even know what that is, but
I just know it's in New Jersey. Oh, that's it. But so you know how like no New York sports teams actually play their games in New York? They're always in New Jersey. The New York Red Bulls, the soccer team, I know their stadium's in Trenton, New Jersey. That's the only thing I know about Trenton, New Jersey. But he went on the mic after the show in a weird like babyface moment and like said essentially he doesn't know if he'll ever be back here due to changes in his life or whatever. Basically saying your town doesn't get put on TV, so I won't be here for Raw or SmackDown. So I don't know if I'll be here for a house show. Weird thing to say in general, and like this was in like because you know how they don't do TV from the Garden anymore, Madison Square Garden, but they do make their house shows kind of a big deal, and they did one of those recently. If he did this at the Garden, I'd be like, okay, I get it, I understand that concept of that, but to even put that out there in Trenton, New Jersey, and anyone from New Jersey, I'm not trying to dunk on you, but it just seemed like it's not a place of significance to him. This isn't Pensacola, Florida, his hometown. This isn't Atlanta, Georgia, where he played college football. This isn't, I don't know, pick a significant town for Roman Reigns. I don't think Trenton, New Jersey is one of them. So just if Roman is transitioning to like a part-time thing, I don't know what that means about him being champion. And if there's only going to be one champion and you're kind of going to make them a little more scarce, it's a perfect opportunity to make the US and IC titles mean a lot more again. But we've been saying that since, this is our 44th episode saying that we need to make those championships mean more. But again, just overall confusing to do it in general, where he did it, why he did it, when he did, everything. It was just a really weird story. And it's still like nobody has any new information on that, but it was just weird.
Yeah, it was definitely weird because then like I believe a week later he decided to resign to get an extension on his contract. I do think he's gonna become part-timer.
Yeah.
And I could see him losing his title really, really soon. Yeah, I could see it coming. I could see it happening at Hell in a Cell. If not Hell in a Cell, if it doesn't happen at Hell in a Cell, it's gonna happen at the show in England,
in Wales. In UK. That might be the move, honestly. And I'd be good with that because I think what we said when we started this podcast, it was in the middle of the pandemic. Drew was the champ, and we were talking about how great a job he did to have that title run in front of nobody. And he clearly earned to get the run that he would have gotten because he was winning that title one way or the other. It's not like they changed that because of COVID, So I'm all for that. I forget when that show actually is. Where that falls.
I believe it's like the beginning of September.
Okay, so that's a little bit of down the road then.
Yeah,
but Drew either needs to win the title then or be champion going into that. That works as well. I would love for him to get the pop of winning it there, but if not, he should at least be the champ as they roll into that for sure. Some other just WWE viewing stuff that I've done in the past 2 weeks since we last spoke. It was the Stone Cold Sessions, back-to-back bangers, one with Bully Ray and then one with Cody. The Bully Ray one was fun because it's not someone I know he's on Busted Radio and you hear him talk all the time. I hear him talk daily when I listen to the show, but to hear him talk about his career like that was a great retrospective and everything. And the Cody one, I know you said you haven't gotten that one yet. It's 2 hours, so definitely either break it up or set a time. But they go through his whole WWE career. He talks about Dusty plenty, talks about AEW. They use a few photos from AEW.
I did see that. It was like one with Ricky Starks in it.
Yeah, they do use a Ricky Starks photo. They do the little like 30-second timer thing. It's like the teaser for the episodes. Did you see the one for Cody? Where favorite ice cream and you got to name, whatever. And they asked him like Stone Cold's asked him like favorite Zelda game. And he says Ocarina of Time, which is the right answer. And Stone Cold goes, no, dude, it's Breath of the Wild. Like Stone Cold has any freaking clue about anything about Zelda games. Like that was funny to me. Another little pot shot thrown in there, which went over my head initially. They asked him his favorite band, and he said Our Lady Peace, which was a total random thing. And it turns out that's the band that did Chris Benoit's theme song. Just, I don't know if there's any connection whatsoever to him saying that or not, but like, I don't know. People pointed that out to me, and I'm like, that is interesting. But no, great. The Bully Ray one is awesome. The Cody one, it's really good. The other, I don't watch Young Rock, right? I looked at that and I said, not for me. But when I saw Colt Cabana is going to play the Brooklyn Brawler, I fired up the Peacock account. That is not mine. And I watched the episode with him in there, and it was good stuff. And current NWA wrestler Luke Hawx plays Stone Cold in that, which he doesn't necessarily look a lot like him, but he's got the voice down packed. Like if you just like close your eyes and listen to when The Rock and him have a conversation, you would think it was him. And like there's some people that have like a pretty good Austin impression, so it doesn't surprise me. And granted, he's ringmaster Steve Austin in this. He's not, he's got a little bit of hair still. He's got the green trunks. He's got the white wrist tape. Like, so it's that version of him. So I've never watched a minute of Young Rock, but if you can pull that episode up, it was still enjoyable. I didn't need to know anything else about the show. I mean, it's about his life. I know a good amount about The Rock's career anyway, so I wasn't lost going into it. And true. Colt did an awesome job as Brooklyn Brawler. He got from a guy from Chicago, he got his New York accent pretty good. But it also explains to me why he hasn't been on TV in so long, because they're shooting this in another country. So he had to quarantine for 2 weeks, and they shot for 6 weeks. So that explains where Colt Cabana has been for 8 weeks. So now that
apparently that's what happened with Chavo as well.
Yes, Chavo also, and apparently the season's wrapped or whatever. So maybe we'll see both of them on AEW television again real soon. I don't know what they're going to necessarily do with Chavo now, but I mean, maybe they'll bring him in with a new client to fight Idolo for dropping him or something. But Colt Cabana did a podcast with Chavo since they were both here at the same time. Very cool to listen to. I'm going to tell this really quick story. It's like the highlight of the thing. When he was growing up in San Antonio, as a young wrestler, Bruce Pritchard was dating Chavo's sister, I guess, because when he was a young wrestler, and they would all mess because it's all the Guerreros working this one promotion, and they would always like find reasons to mess with them. And he gets in the locker room one time, and everyone only has one boot on because they're gonna have this like big battle royal. That's like the main event. And they're like, Bruce, what are you doing? It's the one boot battle royal. Get your boot off. You're first. Get out there. So the dude takes his boot off. They play his music. He runs out there. Then everybody in the battle royal proceeds to come out with both boots on. So they just joked with him and he kept trying to get himself eliminated, and they kept throwing him back in there. They were stepping on his toes and stuff. Great story. Listen to it. Colt also does one with the real Brooklyn Brawler, and they talk about his opinion of Colt portraying him and stuff. Definitely just good wrestling content, that's what we're all after at the end of the day. Good wrestling content. Some would argue that this is good wrestling content. Some would argue this. We'll see. We'll jump into a little AEW news. We are getting pretty close. We're about 2 weeks out from Double or Nothing. We have a handful. The card's starting to take shape a little bit. We have Thunder Rosa and Serena Deeb for the Women's Championship. Hangman Page and CM Punk for the World Championship. That much we know. They don't call it the pre-show, the buy-in, excuse me. We have Hook and Danhausen facing Tony Nese and Smart Mark Strong. I do want to say real quick, the Danhausen debut where Tony Nese just like squashed him in 30 seconds was beautiful, because I was in the process. I'm watching it out in the living room, and Jody notices that when Danhausen comes down that Tony Nese is already in the ring, and she's like, where did he come from? He didn't get any music. He didn't get an entrance. And I'm like, that's actually like, if you don't get an entrance, it typically means you're, and I'm in the process of explaining what that means. And then Tony Nese kicks him in the face. So it makes me look like a total jackass. I just explained how this normally goes. But it was awesome. So yeah, we're getting Hookhausen, and that's going to be fun on the buy-in. And then we have the Owen Hart Memorial Cup finals will be on the show for both the men and the women. I'm going to attempt here to pull up the brackets so we can just talk about that for a minute. Let's see. I used to be good at this screen share stuff. Here we go. Okay. So we'll start with the men's. You can see that?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. So we know we have Samoa Joe and the Joker this week on Wednesday. Any inklings on who the Joker is going to be?
I heard a lot of rumors. It could be Johnny Gargano.
Mm-hmm.
Or I could.
So for me, it's either you kind of cut out for a minute, so this might have been what you just said, but Gargano for sure, and then Cesaro was
Yep.
okay. But I assume that's who you were talking about. Yeah, I see it being one of those two for sure. We'll go down the line here, and then I'm going to pull this out so we can talk about this last match that just happened. But given who's in here, I mean, honestly, almost none of these guys like scream Owen Hart necessarily, and I don't know who like. It's just kind of a hodgepodge of people. It's not necessarily these matches are going to be great, but it's not necessarily who I would have picked for the bracket. Adam Cole and Jeff Hardy are the semifinals, which we're going to probably end the show talking about the Darby Allin Jeff Hardy match that happened last week. That was crazy. We got Ray Phoenix, Kyle O'Reilly. That should be a good one. From this side of the bracket, do you think the Joker beats Joe and then he can quietly like go to Ring of Honor and do what they're going to do? Because I kind of see it. I don't think you bring in a Joker for Joe to like choke him out, you know? So I don't know about.
Yeah. I would have probably switched it. I would have probably had Kyle O'Reilly go against the Joker.
Yeah.
Just because you don't want to have your ROH TV champion lose against the Joker. Unless he gets screwed over by Jay Lethal,
which could
his boys.
Definitely see that being the case. If you just had to randomly pick right now, who do you think wins the Owen Hart Cup for the men?
I give it to Adam Cole just to try to build.
Same. I agree, because what I think will happen here, I'll just throw it out there. The Young Bucks will cost Jeff Hardy this match, and that'll lead to the Hardys versus the Bucks, which will probably get a double or nothing. Maybe we get Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly in the final. That would be interesting because they, don't know, but we'll see. But yeah, definitely a few more things to come out with that. But I think we're both on the right track here. I think it's going to be Adam Cole.
I do have a question though about this the bracket.
Mm-hmm.
I see that on the days it has the 18th, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna get both the Kyle O'Reilly, Ray Phoenix and stuff this week?
Yep, both this week.
And when is the also we're gonna get the Jeff Hardy and Adam Cole match, right? That's this week too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that'll catch us up so that we have the finals.
Okay.
All three of those matches are Wednesday. That'd be a good show. Don't miss it. 8:00 TV. We're gonna go to the women's one real quick here. I have no idea who the Joker would be for Britt Baker. I don't know if you have any.
I can see them bringing in Ember Moon, Athena.
That would Palmer, I think her name. Would love that. Absolutely. Yeah, Athena. Yeah, you have that right. I would absolutely love that. I just mentioned earlier how I always pick her. She's my dark horse to win everything. I'd love to see her win this whole thing. Toni Storm is already, moved on. I would like to see Ruby Soho win this because she's been so close to being like winning something almost like the Adam Cole thing. It's like they got to win something significant to keep their rep up. So for me, I could almost see Ruby Soho winning this. If not, because Britt Baker's had her moment. I think someone's going to beat her and get that rub right now. So if not Athena, which I'd be all for, I'm going Ruby Soho for that.
Yeah, I would love for Ruby Soho to win. But I could also see them doing Toni Storm it.
Yeah, and she's in the same boat of like she wins that and that makes her like important moving forward. So I mean that's the point of tournaments like this is to make stars. Like I don't know what the winner gets besides a trophy. I assume they're getting a title shot or something or whatever. But the winners of these, it's like King of the Ring become significant for the next 12 months. Or in theory should, and we've seen guys where that did happen with Booker T and Wade Barrett and in recent times, more recent times, William Regal. So if the point of it is to take someone who was semi-relevant, have them go on this hell of a run and it makes them relevant. So if we can pull off both of those with these tournaments, I'm all for that. We touched on it a minute ago, and this will be what we wrap up with, but the Jeff Hardy Darby Allin match, wildest 10 minutes I've seen in a very long time. I looked at the clock. There was 14 minutes left during entrances, and I just looked on this thing here. The match was like 10 minutes and change, and The one thing I will say that the crazy spot with Darby off the ladder was later followed by Jeff doing the swanton onto the stairs, and they should have flipped the order of those, because what Jeff did hurt like a mother, but it didn't look as bad compared to what Darby had just done. So they probably should have done that, because he's done that before in Impact, and it looks crazy every time he does it. But yeah, they should have done that first, and then I was fully okay with Darby Allin winning this. I thought when he hit that coffin drop, I thought he was going to win. But for him to
Jeff.
Yeah. No, I would have been okay with winning.
Okay.
I see the confusion. I didn't work. No, I would have loved to see Darby. I would have been totally cool with it. Would have made total sense. But for Jeff to get the win, kind of like getting one over on the youngster, because this was just a tournament match, just had no build, which some people complained about. I think when you do build this, that's when you have Darby beat Jeff. And I think that's when we'll get that moment. I'm all for with it being the way that it was. I would have been fine with Darby winning, but I don't know if this was on purpose, but when he kind of did the crucifix pin and the ladder was in the way, I think it made it better. Like that was why he couldn't kick out, because the ladder was there. Like I don't know if that was on purpose, but that looked great to me.
I saw that too, and you could say that too. You could Darby could say that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, because it really did look like that.
Yeah. Last thing on this, and some people have said this, I try not to look at it in the negative sense, but like it's a conversation worth having. Dr. Martha Hart, the widow of Owen Hart, was in attendance for this match. Do you think it was super smart to have the match where Darby does this high height related stunt, and they put the camera on her all night? At no point did she seem bothered by it. Granted, if she like burst into tears, they weren't going to put that on TV, but nothing negative has come out about that. I think it's a fair point for anyone that said that, unless you're just trying to like shit on AEW for something, then I don't listen to you. But if you're honestly saying not the greatest time to do something like that, I think it's a fair point.
Yeah, I do think the same. I said when I first saw that, I was like, oh, she's there.
Yeah. It was definitely absolutely crazy to actually see Martha Hart. And from what I can see from some photos, the kids were there as well, Ode, and I do forget the daughter's name. But it's great to see the Hart family at AEW. We did lose Donovan here at the end. He dropped out of the Zoom call, so sorry about that, guys. But we were just about to wrap up. So we will see you guys. We will preview Double or Nothing in the next week or so. And then, of course, we'll have the review for that and everything. So I want to thank you guys for listening and checking out the episode today. And enjoy some wrestling this week, and we'll see you next time.